Hey, hey. I don't know why I said hey like that. How we all doing? Documenting the fall of the Republic as it enters its 250th year of existence. Tom's first. He wins the prize. Tom tries it. Subscribe. Well, hello, LeBron, aka young Joe Biden. Tavestian Tiger. Hello. Oh, Duckley. Welcome. I like your PFP. I'm a big fan of Adventure Time. My daughter and I watched that show together. Uh, it's one of the best shows of all time. Good Morning Project 454, not to be confused with Fahrenheit 451. I don't. Well, huh? DC fan high. Nebulon's here. Oh, yeah. It's funny because I sent on social media. By the way, I try to spend more time on Blue Sky these days versus Twitter, but I'm still on Twitter. And yeah, I tweeted out, you're way more likely to get shot by an ICE agent than an illegal immigrant. I even use their language because they say, when I say they, I mean Trumpists. They say illegal immigrants instead of the more PC undocumented immigrant. But regardless, I use their language to get their attention. Of course, I'm trolling them. Of course. Anyway, many of them asked Grok, "Is this true?" And Grok consistently responded, "Actually, yeah, it kind of is. Undocumented immigrants have not murdered anyone in Minneapolis." But yeah, ICE agents. There's at least one, and then we have another person that got shot apparently in the leg by an ICE agent. Although we don't know as many details about that. But yeah, I've been really upset about this. This is the main issue I've been focusing on because I don't think it's hyperbolic to say ICE agents are acting like Trump's private military, basically like the Gestapo. It's not hyperbolic to say that. Speaking of the Gestapo, I wanted to bring up a great book series that I read in grad school, and I highly recommend it. I was revisiting. I only own one of the books. I sold the other two, I think, because I needed money when my oldest daughter was born. I sold a bunch of books and CDs. But anyway, the one I still have is The Third Reich at War. The author is Richard Evans. He's British. He's a British historian who specializes in research and writing about Nazi Germany. And his books are also online for free if you don't want to spend money. Actually, his first book is probably the most prescient, the most relevant at this moment. So it's called The Coming of the Third Reich. And I wanted to reread it. And so that's why I found it. I wanted to share it with you. I'll put the link in the chat. I'll do that right now. So you can all read it for free. That links to archive.org. But it's called The Coming of the Third Reich by Richard Evans if you want to purchase it as well. It talks about how the Nazis were, how they gained power in Germany in the 1920s in the Weimar Republic, I should say. And particularly, it looks at how they got elected. Remember, the Nazis were elected. It was a parliamentary system. Germany still has a parliamentary system, but they got 30-some%, like a third of the vote. So they got a third of the seats in parliament, and then eventually Hitler was able to consolidate power, and then just straight up became a dictator. So, you know, when we say it can't happen here, of course it can happen here. That's a ridiculous thing to say. All of you study history, you know this can happen anywhere. So these are not hyperbolic statements anymore. We're seeing the rise of fascism straight up in the United States. This is not controversial to say. Don't let anyone gaslight you. Don't make them think that, oh, come on now, you're exaggerating. This is overblown. We still are a constitutional republic. We still have democracy. Technically, they are correct, But also, technically, we have an oligarchy. We've had an oligarchy for at least a couple decades. Harvard did a study on this. You could classify us as an oligarchy because rich people have bought politicians, simply put, and because they're able to now. Cool bananas here. All right, now class can finally get started. Oh, Alra, welcome. We got new folks here. Thank you. So there's a few things I wanted to look at before I look at. I have a. I also posted this on social media, but obviously there are concerns related to the rise of fascism in the United States that, oh, hey, maybe the president will undermine the upcoming midterm elections, or maybe just straight up cancel them. Before I get into that, Mrs. Beat always wants me to do this. I haven't seen her in the chat. You know what? I'm going to have to give her detention for that. But I have new videos I've been releasing still. I know it's hard to not pay attention to the news, with everything going on with Venezuela, Greenland now, ICE causing terrorism on the streets of our country, Iran. Holy crap, what's going on in Iran? So despite all that, I think just for my mental health, I do things like I go to the gym, so I don't go insane. But also, like, I listen to a lot of music. The last year and a half, ever since the election of 2024, basically, I've stopped listening to political podcasts. I mean, mostly. I still listen to them occasionally, especially if they pop up on my recommended on YouTube. But overall, like long form, I don't listen to them from beginning to end. Usually it's just clips, because for my own mental health. And instead, I listen to music. And, a few months ago, I just went crazy listening to XTC, not taking XTC, the band XTC. And I was just like, man, I know the video probably won't do that well, but they are just so dang underrated. I've got to make a video for my Beat Goes On channel about XTC. And so I did. I finally released that yesterday on my other channel, The Beat Goes On, XTC. It's called The Most Underrated Band of All Time, because I think there's a good argument that they are. They're just so good. So could you please watch that? Give it a chance. You don't even have to watch my video. Just go to Spotify or Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, whatever, and just search XTC, the band XTC. Listen to them. Thank me later. And my Mr. Beat channel. Yeah, I have a short coming out today. It's a little bit more lighthearted. It's looking at generations in Congress, related to how Congress has never been older than it has been right now. In the 2020s, we have the oldest Congress in American history overall, although it's starting to finally change. I think in the midterms this year, they could potentially dramatically change. So yeah, speaking of the midterms, I do have some things to react to. My colleague Dave, who runs a couple YouTube channels, but particularly the channel Voting Trend, Dave Trotter, he is particularly concerned with how it's going to go. These upcoming midterms, he's really concerned. And I just want to give you my opinion first. Obviously, it's looking like it's going to be a blue wave. President Trump is very unpopular. The only other time he was this unpopular in history was right after January 6th. In fact, it might be possible that he's even more unpopular because he's lost all support from all those new voters he gained in 2024, particularly with Gen Z, younger voters, and Hispanic and Latino voters. It seems like all that support has been wiped away, especially with how ICE has been terrorizing the streets. Actually, let me just show you. I also pulled up a video from my friend Ethan of the channel Let's Talk Elections. I'll just play the end of it and we can react to it together, because this gives you an idea of how much things have dramatically changed. How it's very realistic now that the Democrats could take both houses of Congress, not just the House. They could literally take over the Senate, despite the built-in advantages the Republican Party has. So let's look at this together. The channel Let's Talk Elections. I think he does really good election analysis. Obviously, he's a Democrat. He's biased towards the Democrats, but still, he looks at a lot of data. Let's just this is the end of one of his most recent videos called "Republicans Can't Stop Democrats' Momentum in 2026."
District. The rest would fall absolutely first. That would crack the Republican Party's efforts in Colorado tremendously and really doom that party in a state they already are not doing all that well in. So the new race ratings here have implications that extend not just on the statewide and local level, but very obviously on the national level. I don't think it is, lost on all of you watching that as these states see individual shifts, that the impact of it in Washington, D.C. and on our national policy and on the president are far more tremendous than we can really realize, right? What one race rating in Colorado might change is a dynamic at play in a committee hearing room or on the congressional leadership level or whatever it might be. But compounded in Colorado and California and Connecticut and Florida could change the dynamic of this entire country. Who's in office, who's elected in 2028, who is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who is in control of our spending bills, who is in control of X, Y, and Z. It all stops here. And Democrats are continuously improving. As we are getting closer to the election, Democrats stand in a tremendously good position going into 2026. Right now, they are close to the majority, closer than the Republicans, despite being in the minority today. That is how good of a position they are in right now. They have more safe seats than the Republicans. They have more seats than the Republicans in terms of prediction and expectation. And the problem for Republicans is that they are playing defense in a lot of the districts that today were exposed as far more competitive than people realize. Pay a close look at what these race ratings say, because they tell us a story, and one that in 18 directions or not, show Democrats doing exceptionally well in 2026. And a very real possibility the Democrats could be locking down key support in districts that might not even have been on our radar roughly a year ago when Republicans had the upper hand. Today, it seems entirely changed. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Right. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already.
Overall, new registrations for political party for the Democrats is skyrocketed, especially with younger folks. Obviously, if you're older, you're probably not going to change your political affiliation. You're pretty much set in your ways. But, like someone like me, I was raised Republican. I voted Republican more often as a young man, but then I shifted more to the left as I got older. I mean, I still am independent, but the only reason why I've been voting for Democrats in the 2020s is because of my legit fear of authoritarianism. It's not like I'm a huge fan of Democrats. I have plenty of criticisms of the Democratic Party, obviously. So I think a lot of people are just reevaluating their positions now, and very quickly. Many of these folks did vote for Trump in 2024. So that all said, I just want to point out that there's a growing number of people that are afraid that the midterm elections are not going to happen, or at the very least, they're going to be undermined. I am 95% sure the midterm elections will happen. So I want to give you some optimism here. I'm pretty confident they're going to happen. However, I do think it's more split, maybe 50-50, 50% chance that they will be undermined, that either Trump himself, his administration, or supporters of him will go out of their way to make sure these elections are not free and fair. Remember, this is something that Republicans have really campaigned on for the last 6 years, is the Democrats are rigging elections. The Democrats are preventing us from having free and fair elections, especially after Trump denied the results of the 2020 presidential election. So I think that's projection. I think that in reality, we know that Republicans are much more likely to suppress votes. This is just a fact. I mean, look at all the evidence. Also, billionaires are now buying up voting machine companies. And so there's going to be shenanigans, probably, I would say, at least 50-50 chance that there's going to be shenanigans. And so I say this, first of all, we can be proactive. I highly encourage all of you watching who is an American, which I know some of you are not American. Thank you for being here. Maybe you're just like amused at the fall of the United States as a superpower. I don't know. But you're here regardless. Thank you, learning about what's going on in the United States of America. But if you are an American, I am pleading to you. I'm begging you at this point, become a poll worker. I'm going to put this link in the chat as well, where you can look up your local information. But if you just search up local election office, poll worker, your county should pop up. One thing that also gives me hope is the fact that elections in the United States are decentralized. Those of you outside the United States may not even understand this, that it's not top down, it's bottom up. So elections happen at the local level, not just state level, but county level, city level, precinct. It's very decentralized, which means it's very difficult for voter fraud to happen. So this continues to give me hope as well. But we need to be proactive. So please sign up to be a poll worker. Sign up to be a poll worker. I think it's your obligation at this point because obviously the 2024 election was really important, and the United States, Americans blew it, frankly. Now we have a clear path toward fascism, but we shouldn't give up yet. We shouldn't become radicalized to a point where, oh, you know what, we're just going to have a war anyway. Might as well. I mean, the accelerationists are getting kind of annoying, frankly. Like, we still have democracy in this country. It's not completely gone. So I think we shouldn't lose all hope, but we have to be proactive. Become a poll worker. I'm begging you to, if you're an American, to commit to this, especially if you live in a swing district, especially if you live in a swing state. I live in a very blue area of Kansas, but still, I want to get involved as well. I'm going to be doing my part. I know some people might recognize me. I don't care. So yeah, that's my advice. Now, I know at least I don't want to like give it away too much here, but I know people personally who have moved away from the United States or are in the process of moving away from the United States because they're like, it's too late. Fascism is already here. It kind of sucks that they are like that. Even if fascism is here, even if you want to concede that it's already arrived, I think we should still keep fighting. Go ahead and maybe look at buying a gun to protect your family. That's fine. But I think more importantly, I think we still do have democracy. And so I think it's critical that this very important election coming up in November, the midterm elections, Democrats have to get control of Congress, even if the Democratic Party sucks, which they do. They clearly suck. They've been really bad, and they're not doing much to resist right now. They're just kind of letting Trump burn the country to the ground. It's really sad to see. So anyway, there is somebody I know who is already in the process of moving out of the United States. I'll go because I'm sure he's told others this, and that's the aforementioned my colleague Dave from the channel Voting Trends. So we're going to react to his video. Take this very seriously, guys. Some of you might be thinking, oh, this is hyperbolic. This is crazy to say, even consider some of this stuff. But listen to what Dave has to say. Let's react to this together. The video title is Free and Fair Elections. Why I'm worried why they won't be free and fair. This is an expert. He analyzes this stuff pretty deeply. So this isn't just, some schmuck like me. He studies this stuff all the time. He's constantly looking at, I don't know if he believes that there were shenanigans in 2024. I'm not sure about that, but because the evidence is kind of back and forth on that. I don't think I'm skeptical of that personally, but let's just hear what Dave has to say about why he's worried about these upcoming midterms.
Talk about a post that I put up yesterday here on YouTube talking about the future of this channel. And I know I do that a lot, so I'm sorry. Thank you for dealing with me when I go on to these rants. But I have been talking about for nearly a year now that I don't think that we're going to have free and fair elections. I was looking at a video I did back in March. I mentioned the exact same words back then. So a lot of people have been engaging with me, saying they either agree with me or disagree with me. But one thing that people have not done, and this to me is very important, is they haven't asked me why I believe this. They either tell me I'm correct or I'm incorrect, but they never ask, Dave, why do you believe this? And in today's video, I want to talk about why I believe this, because I think a lot of you out there who think that we're going to have free and fair elections and all that, I think I can inch you over more to my side, and maybe we can get together to try to figure out a way to mitigate this issue. Okay, let me bring up 3 points. Okay, I think the first point is pretty irrefutable. The second point, we can have some movement on, but it's that third point that's going to matter the most. So the first point here, do I think the Republicans are going to lie, steal, cheat, intimidate, and do everything that they can to make sure that the election goes their way? Yes, because they always do. Trump calling up saying, hey, give me those votes in Georgia. But it's not even Donald Trump. The Republicans stole the presidency in 2000, right? So the Republicans are very much into stealing elections. They have always done this. Hell, we can go back to Watergate and the Democratic nomination or whatever. So
okay, that's a bit too partisan for me. I think the Republican Party of 2000 was dramatically different than the Republican Party today. And I do think it's mostly just Trump. I think that everyone else, every other Republican falls in line after Trump says something. So I disagree that like just kind of saying the Republican Party has always been like this. I disagree with that.
You know, this whole stealing is going to try to be done by the Republicans. Now, with the Trump administration having the tools of intimidation with ICE, now voting, the Dominion voting machines now owned by a Republican who can absolutely manipulate the votes and other things. Yeah, they have a step up compared to what they had in the past. So I do believe the Republicans are going to absolutely fuck with the elections. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, if all is fair, if we have free and fair elections, do I think that the Democrats will win those elections? Yes. I think that the Democrats will win the House. And as far as the Senate, I think it's 50-50. I'm probably more optimistic when it comes to the House than anybody else out there. Now, Democrats have shown that they can do well. All the swings have been to the Democratic side with the exception of a few seats. And many of those seats were actually very Democratic. And so it was harder for the Democrats.
I think the vast majority of elections we've seen and polling we've seen since 2024 have shifted Democrats' way. Not because the Democratic Party has something to offer that much. It's just because Republicans have shot themselves in the foot so badly.
Actually get a swing in their direction. Can't get over 100%, right? So I do think that the Democrats would win if all is fair. Now, the third point is the reason why I don't think we're going to have free and fair elections. I think those other 2 points, you and I, if you're a Democrat or a person on the left or whatever, I think you and I can agree on those, right? Now the third point, why I don't think they're going to win, or why I don't think they're going to be free and fair elections. Do I think that the Democratic Party, the party of Chuck Schumer, the party of Hakeem Jeffries, the party that just never, ever fights and just hem-haws and does nothing. Do I think that they're prepared for a fight against the Republican Party at the highest level to take on the shit that the Republicans are going to pile on when it comes to voter fraud, intimidation, and all that in this country? Hell no. That's why I think we're not going to have free and fair elections. I don't think that the Democrats are up to the task because I hate to say it, a lot of times they're pussies. They don't want to fight. They don't want to do what it takes to push to get to that next level. And you have a bunch of guys who are probably going to break the law to try to get these elections won by the Republicans. And here's the thing, the Republicans might act like criminals, but in order for you to stop a criminal, you have to think like a criminal. And I don't think that the Democrats are into that. You know, the Democrats are into the they go low, we go high bullshit, right? I think a lot of you and I, you know, a lot of us, I guess I should say, we agree that the they go low, we go high bullshit is bullshit. And now, as soon as I mention that we're relying on election integrity to be in the hands of the Democrats who can't seem to find their way out of a room full of doors, who are more unpopular than the Republicans, oddly enough, and who have no backbone, they have no spine, they don't.
But there are exceptions to this. I will agree that most Democrats are really failing right now, but we have exceptions like obviously Zohran Mamdani, who's getting stuff done in New York City already, who's extremely popular compared to every other Democrat. Bernie Sanders is still the most popular member of Congress, according to polling. I know he's not technically a Democrat, but he votes with Democrats. Hey, Nebulon, there is absolutely something you can do. There is absolutely something you can do. You can become a poll worker. Please become a poll worker. Document it. Film it all. Don't give up, okay? There is something you can do. Do not feel hopeless. Trumpists want you to feel hopeless. Don't let them win. Human beings were born to fight, okay? Please keep fighting. I'm begging you to keep fighting. Anyway, this video goes on for a while. I'm not sure what else he has to say, but we'll keep hearing him out here. I will say that I have a lot of faith in the justice system still. Most people don't. I get it. I think the justice system will hold. I think that as long as judges and the Supreme Court itself stay with the law, and they usually can because they're not elected, then I think we'll be fine. Already, we've seen the Supreme Court vote against the Trump administration on certain key issues, notably tariffs and sending National Guard to cities. I wonder when they're going to speak out about ICE, by the way. Can you guys not hear the audio anymore? Here, let me refresh it. I'm not sure what's going on. What about now? Now? Dang it. Dang it. Well, I guess we get the gist of it. So we'll just, I guess, turn the video off. Yeah, what are your thoughts? I think that it's a little bit overblown from Dave. I do think, obviously, the Democratic Party has been very disappointing this last year and a half or so. At the same time, this is the first time in my life I've actually got to speak with Democratic members of Congress. The few that I've spoken to have given me optimism. I think plug the doohickey back in. Okay. Let me try this. I'm going to try one more thing. Sorry.
Are not necessarily good.
Can you hear it now?
The Democrats have always been reactive. Okay, and what do I mean by that? So you have proactive and reactive. Reactive is that, let's say somebody goes to a polling location, they see some fraud going on, or they're turned away from the polls because of race or whatever. Then that person calls an election protection program and they try to fight that and battle that in courts. That's on election day. Okay, the Republicans only care if they get the votes in on election day, because as long as they're leading on election day, 2000, Gore v. Bush, as long as they're leading the whole entire time, that's what they want. They're going to be able to control the narrative. So the Democrats seem to only fight once election day is here and then on. Okay. What we need to do is be proactive. We need to say, where are the Republicans going to strike? How are they going to strike? What methods are they going to use? How are they going to do what they can to intimidate?
And already I've been really inspired by both the folks in Los Angeles and Minneapolis, the way they've organized, out there with the whistles to warn people with more melanin in their skin than me, that, hey, ICE agents, the terrorists are coming, please. And everybody jumps to action. They get out of their houses. Like every single neighborhood, it seems, has a group that's ready. Fortunately, a lot of people that either work from home or can be flexible like they own a business. I don't know. Like me, I could do something like this. So far, Kansas City, by the way, has been fairly quiet. I'm keeping my eye on it. But same thing with Los Angeles. Everybody's jumping to action. Most importantly, they're all filming it. You see these videos, you see like one ICE agent, and then they're surrounded by a dozen people with cameras, all filming from different angles. Like you can't gaslight us anymore. We've got it from 12 different angles. Okay. Because, the murder of Renee Good was only 4 angles, just that's the thing that continues to give me hope. There's a few things to give me hope. Just the polling, the rise of, honestly, like a lot of Democrats are becoming radicalized right now. I feel like I'm radicalized. I feel like many of you are radicalized in terms of like becoming more accelerationist, like meaning like we need to actually fight back hard against fascism because we know history. We've learned about this stuff. That gives me hope, but the judicial system still gives me hope. So that's a very conservative mindset here that, oh yeah, the law itself will be our savior. So in some ways I've become more conservative, like, cause I've had more faith lately in judicial interpretation of the Constitution. Many of the Republican judges actually want to limit the power of the president. They want to limit the power of the federal government. That's actually what we need right now. Okay. But also, yeah, the fact that our elections are decentralized, that continues to give me hope. So we'll let Dave finish out here, but I don't agree with him much so far, what he's saying, although I respect what he's saying.
Then the Democrats need to mitigate those issues. The Democrats need to say, okay, how do we figure out, of all the people who want to cast a vote, how do we make sure their vote is casted or cast? Cast is the past tense of cast. Their vote is cast. Their vote is counted. Their vote is counted correctly in a group of votes to give us a final result. And that result absolutely represents the number of votes counted and is correctly certified by the state. All of these things, because in this whole entire chain, it can go from voter intimidation at early voting, or Republicans snatching ballots in vote by mail, because it's going to mostly be Democrats voting by mail, all the way to fake certifications a few weeks after the election.
I say don't vote by mail. That's another thing I say. Vote in person. I would say vote early if you can, but on the day of, get off work if you can. I would not vote by mail in this election.
It's a whole gambit of things in which they can commit fraud on. But the Democrats are only worried about what happens at a polling booth. Is it a civil rights violation? We'll go to court and try to figure this out after the fact and after election day is done. This is the problem I have with the Democrats. They do not have a comprehensive plan when it comes to election protection from before the election, months before the election, till certification. So this is why I say I don't think there's going to be free and fair elections. Now, can this be mitigated and changed? Yes, but it's not going to be the Democratic Party that does it. Okay. They go low, we go high. They can't. The only elections that Democrats seem to be able to win is when the Republicans really fuck up and there's somehow a free election, right? Democrats should be winning more than they usually should. Okay, it's kind of like Will McElvoy was talking in the first scene of Newsroom when he says, if you liberals are so goddamn smart, how come you lose so goddamn much? It's this. They don't know how to fight in the trenches. So I've talked to one big YouTuber. I'm not going to mention his name, but he is a big YouTuber, over 1 million subscribers. And I brought up the idea of, hey, what if we worked on some sort of project for election integrity? That we create some sort of system and inform people of the system to make sure that the votes are counted, to warn people of certain things. So let me give you an example. Let's talk about ICE. I truly believe at early voting locations that ICE might be in front of those locations trying to intimidate voters as they're going to early voting locations. Now, they're going to target places that are highly Democratic, obviously. What kind of warning mechanism can we put in place to let the voters, whoever would be going into the polls at that location, know that ICE is at that location and, hey, don't vote today? Or what do we do to make sure that vote by mail goes smoothly, right? We shouldn't even be voting by mail. And let me tell you this right now, Democrats, okay? If you want to vote by mail, like in some states like Pennsylvania, you kind of have to, don't put the ballot in the mailbox. Go to the elections officials. So like in Florida, you have the supervisor of elections. Here in Illinois, you have the county clerk. Go there, hand it to them. Hand it to the official, right? This is what we need to do. We need to inform people of where their ballot could maybe be lost, where their ballots can go, maybe be manipulated. And we also need to figure out, how are the Republicans going to do a Putin-style stuffing the ballots? How do we look at those? How do we mitigate with these issues? There's a whole plethora of things that we need to be aware of. And the Democrats do not seem like it's not that the Democrats are weak. I mean, that is the truth. I don't even think the Democrats know where to start. I don't even think the Democrats know, hey, these are the things we need to look for. Because again, as I mentioned, if you want to beat a criminal, you got to think like a criminal. And I don't think that the Democrats have that in them. A lot of them are just spineless people who just do not care. And I'm not talking about the average Democrat. I'm talking about the elected officials who we count on them to be the leaders to push to make sure that these elections are free and fair. So do I think that we can get there? Yes. Do I think it takes a lot of work and we need to figure out some system to do that? Yes. Is it going to be hard? Yes. Can we do it everywhere? No. Okay. We need to pick our battles. We need to pick our fights. There's no need to spend a lot of, resources and time and all that trying to win a U.S. Senate race in Oklahoma. Right. But what about Michigan? What about Minnesota? What about Georgia? Okay, what about Florida? Okay, if you ever watched the movie Recount, I highly recommend watching that. You saw so many ways that if the things didn't go the Republicans' way, they could have circumvented the voters. Like there is one part in there where literally Tom Feeney, the Speaker of the House, said, hey, if they don't certify the vote by this time, the House of Representatives can go ahead and just award all of the electoral votes to George Bush.
It was Republicans in Georgia that had integrity that prevented this from happening. But the current crop of Republicans and the Trump administration, of course, don't have that same integrity.
Okay, so we need to be prepared. And this is why I don't think we're going to have free and fair elections, because the Democrats are ill prepared for this fight. This is where I want to ask you. I want you to put this in the comments below. Probably don't expect this video to get a lot of views, but please share it. Okay, please share it. I want to know what is your idea as far as fighting this? Like, first of all, think of ideas of ways in which the Republicans can manipulate the votes. I already mentioned they're going to put ice out in front of polling locations, right? They can take ballots out of mailboxes in strong Democratic districts. Like, think of things that Republicans will do to try to make sure that your vote doesn't get counted and certified as part of the certified results. Then from that, I want you to figure out, how can we mitigate these? How can we fight against these? How can we make sure that we have a system that all the votes get from being, cast, counted, certified as a result?
All right, let's see what the commenters are saying. On top of ICE, poll watchers armed with AR-15s and mail theft targeting liberal areas. I think there's going to be a refusal from local election boards to certify election results if Dems win. We need to have a list of who sits on these boards as soon as possible. Identify which boards are at risk of doing this to be prepared. And have legal teams ready to immediately deal with them if they signal they will not certify election results. Do not let these people sit in the dark and get away with cheating. Okay, that's good. I like that. All right. I don't really see anything else. Totally agree that Democrats need to encourage voters to vote early in person and only submit mail-in ballots in person to relevant officials. Yep. Yeah, I would say, let me see what you all are saying here. I do think that his worry is a little bit overblown. I don't personally think we'll see any election interference. We'll see Trump try to not certify the results with some BS reasoning. Just my opinion, though. You can have opinions. It's okay, Sir Butts. Let me go up. I'm going to scroll for. Oh, Mrs. Beat is here. Yes. Oh, yeah, Mrs. Beat, become a poll worker. Okay. I addressed this earlier, old Scotty. I do have concerns about Dominion being bought by a Trumpist billionaire. However, it would be pretty obvious, I think, if there was widespread voter fraud. I think we would see, it'd be pretty clear to see patterns. Yes, Aiden, you should take election day off from school to be a poll worker. Although I think you need to attend training as well. Usually that's in the evening. But our nation, our country, thanks you, dear patriot. This administration is so incompetent that while I fully believe that they will try to steal it, I also fully believe they're going to completely screw it up. Yeah, I mean, that's also something that gives me hope, is the fact that, sure, they're wanting to be fascist, but they're also lazy and incompetent. Authoritarianism is scary, but its inherent flaw is it is based on unifying people through fear, and that exactly demonstrates how you diffuse it. Yeah, that's true. That's why I appreciate all the protesters right now that are not showing fear. Do you think there's any way elections actually get canceled? I think if he tries to do that, the protests will be so massive that Republicans will have to give in. It would be one of those things where they would even lose Trump supporters if they did that, I think. So I continue to be optimistic. Overall, I think that it's not likely that midterm elections will be canceled. However, there will be shenanigans. So let me reiterate what we can do to prevent this from happening. First of all, don't vote by mail. Second, become a poll worker or convince one of your friends or family members to become a poll worker. Third, I know this is a bit more controversial to say, but take a picture of your ballot and post it on social media. I think this is actually illegal in some states, but I know it's legal in Kansas. We can take a picture of our ballot and post it. Do this and tell everyone you know to do the same. Fourth, what that commenter underneath Dave's video said, I would say scrutinize and spend extra attention on who is on your local election boards. Get to know your local election boards right now. Put the pressure on them right now. I would say follow them very closely. But overall, the thing that continues to give me hope the most are the two things I mentioned earlier, as far as our justice system is still pretty strong and elections are decentralized. And so don't be a doomer. Don't lose hope. I think that the process will be fine. Trust the process. I sound cheesy sometimes. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, most you can confirm your ballot was processed correctly, but again, like local election boards run these websites where you can do this, and so I think if they can manipulate that, then that doesn't really matter. So I think it's more important that you get to know who is on your local election board, especially if you are in a swing district or swing county. The thing is, not every Trumpist believed the lies told about the ICE murder of Renee Good. I would say at least thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of Trumpists changed their mind about the administration based on the just blatant lie of it. So don't lose hope on that either. Also, the footage wasn't crystal clear. I think if we had more angles, we'd have more success. There's just enough, just a sliver of doubt is all they need, and that's what they got because the police officer he had to get out of the way. He really thought he was. I mean, even if she's clearly turning the wheel to the other direction, trying to drive away from him. Yeah, I think something like this is going to happen again. That's why I think it's important. It's critical that people continue to film from as many angles as possible. Just film everything. Film in 4K too. Don't, we need to be able to zoom in and see crystal clear. Oh, Mrs. B. Oh, look at Mrs. B. Wow. Okay. Yes, I'm still emailing my congressman each day. I haven't emailed him today yet. A little update on that. So yeah, the last 15 days I've sent an email. If those of you who don't know, I've been emailing my Representative Tracy Mann, who is supposed to represent me in the 1st District of Kansas. Every day I've emailed him trying to convince him to uncap the House. And he responded, but he didn't. He said he didn't support it, but he didn't give a reason why. And then I just kept bugging him. And then I have a former student who's a member of his staff. I reached out to him, say, hey, can I get a meeting with Representative Mann? He's like, sure. Why don't you reach out to our communications director? And he shared their email with me. So I emailed their communications director, never heard back from them. But my former student did call him. So props to him for doing that. But then just straight up said, sorry. Not sorry. We can't, he's not going to meet with you. Also, he's not going to give you a reason why he doesn't support uncapping the House. So I'm picking it up a notch. I'm being a little bit less respectful with how I'm communicating with him. I'm trolling him a little bit on Twitter. Yeah, this is just getting started. I don't think he understands that this is just getting started. I don't think he knows the fact that I have borderline mental illness with this type of stuff. I grind it out. I started uploading videos on YouTube in 2006. I started uploading educational videos on YouTube in 2009. I wasn't making any money for about 10 years off my YouTube videos. I just did it. I don't stop. I'm insane. Okay. This is a challenge. I like challenges. Life is not supposed to be too easy. This is gonna be fun for me. So things are just getting started. I have a lot of big plans. Stay tuned for that. The beat don't play. I like that. I like that. The beat don't play, man. Mr. Beat has broken out the war drums. That's right. That's right. All right. I think we'll wrap it up here. Yeah, easier to take bribes. The thing is, like, my biggest allies on this are conservatives, are Republicans. The idea is to strengthen Congress and to weaken the executive branch. They're principled conservatives. I have tremendous respect for them because they actually are conservative. They're not like the Republican Party of today that's not conservative. They're reactionary. They're big government reactionaries who are perfectly fine with authoritarianism. So that's the crazy thing too, is like when I bring up the conservative arguments for expanding the House, it's just radio silence, nothing. I encourage you to, if you're an American also, if you don't mind, to email your representative, call your representative, and try to convince them to uncap the House. There's no bill currently out there right now. So they would have to write a bill. It wouldn't take that hard, though. They don't need to amend the Constitution. All you need is a bill. You could pass a law. The goal is to make this requirement before the next census, which this next census starts here in about 3.5 years. So we better get the ball rolling on this. Radical Republicans. The new radical Republicans. I like that. Just radical in the wrong direction. All right. Oh, hello, Reno Cake. Senor Beat. Do not vandalize, although I do hate those. Wait, what are you talking about, though, Sergeant Mustang? Maybe I'm... I called my rep to beg him to not vote for the big, beautiful bill. He did anyways. I also called his office to vote yes on the Matthew Epstein petition, and he voted no until the big house vote. Coward. Yeah. Most of them are cowards. We got a Fed. We got a Fed. Fed. Okay. Anyway, thank you for watching, as always. Thank you for being such a good class. Extra credit for you today. Grades will be posted later today. And yes, we'll end it with Mrs. Beat there. Well put. Most representatives don't actually represent their constituents. They represent themselves and their own self-interest. Yeah. I think I've been, it feels like, it sounds like something I'd say. I think I've been influencing my wife. All right. All right. Have a good weekend. We'll see you later.